Okay, let me just. I wanted to make. I'm watching this video. These videos on Facebook, on social media. Maybe that's what really need to stop and stay off of social media, because it really sometimes it can be really annoying and really just depressing to be on social media and see how people conduct themselves. And I want to tell you about black women. Black women. I am so. No, I'm gonna hit on black women and black men. This is going to be an equal admonishment or rebuke, or whatever you want to call it. And if you take offense to it, then so be it. Maybe maybe a hit dog is how. Maybe I threw a pack of rocks in a dog and I hit you. But when I see these men, and these are men, young men, of different ages, older men, and they always constantly blaming women for their problems, that is a clear indication to me that that man is broken, and that he's a victim of this, this is slave mentality manifesting itself in his thoughts, and it's it's coming out, it's in his heart, it's in his thoughts, and it's coming out in his, mind and his action and things like that. It's still slave mentality. If you sit up and you listen and or you watch and read the post of a lot of black men who sit up and complain constantly about women, that is in and of itself a clear indication that this is a broken man who is off. He's been, his mind, his perception, his mind and his mentality, his behavior has been molded, shaped, and influenced by American white supremacy, the media, TV, and all this stuff, and the music he listens to, and the sum of his experiences. Usually when I see men like that constantly complain about and so bitter about women, usually when I see men like that, is they have either had their heart broken by a woman and never got over it, never got that out of their spirit, or they're the type of men who mistreated women. These are for the older men, middle-aged men. I'd say probably 35 and up. Not 35, maybe 40 and up. These men, when I hear them constantly complaining about women and bitching about child support and stuff like that, usually that is a clear indication to me that, like, for one, this man is broken. For one, he really don't truly have the Spirit of God in his heart. And I think that those men usually are the type of men who have mistreated women when they were young, more younger, or maybe when they were more healthier or more successful or had more money, or back in their youth, maybe they dogged women out, ran every good woman away that was there for them and had their back. And now that they're older, and with their kids, when they complain about child support and their kids, and she put child support on me, and the court shouldn't say this about child support. First of all, you should never in your life have to complain about supporting a child that you brought into this world. And it takes the courts a lot of times to make you have to consistently support your child financially. So don't come to me with that BS. And it makes me so angry when I hear men sit up and bitch and complain about child support, because that kid didn't ask to be brought in this world. You are responsible for taking. How is that kid supposed to eat? How is the kid that you bring in the world supposed to eat and fend for itself? The mother's supposed to do it by herself. I don't care if she is spending your child support on things in her house to maintain her household. I don't care what she's doing. Your child lives in her household. And yes, there are some women who do blow child support. I'm not going to, sit up and say that there's not women that do that. But you can't prove that she's doing that unless you can take this stuff to court, back up your words. If you claim that the woman is abusing your child support or misspending child support, the little child support that you do send, if you claim that a woman is misspending or managing that child support, there's always the court systems. There's always attorneys that you can go consult with and go to court. You don't even need an attorney. Go pro bono. Go pro se. Go pro se. and go talk to the judge about it. And you be able to back up what you are claiming and not just bitching and belly aching because you have to pay child support. And that's 9 times out of 10, no, 10 times out of 9. That's what I'm getting from men. You don't want to have to consistently take care of your children. You want somebody else to do it. You want either the system to do it, you either want the mother of those children to do it on her own, or you want another man to do it. And to me, that is you are the worst. The Bible even talks about that. You are the worst. You are the lowest common denominator of human beings. You are the worst. You are not no man if you cannot take care of your responsibility as far as the children that you brought into this world. And that's not the kid's fault, and that's not the woman's fault that you were ill prepared to do that. We are not born rich, okay? Most of us black people, we're not born rich. I mean, we're born into a society that has kept us down in every way, shape, and form, mentally, physically, financially, psychologically, in every way. But at the same time, when you have kids, you have to be responsible for that child. You have to make sure that that child is eating, that child, you have to ensure that that child's emotional, physical, spiritual healthiness and happiness by any means. And when you complain about paying child support, I don't care if you have to pay $10 million child support. That is your child. No, you should spare no expense when it comes to assisting financially in the raising and rearing of your children. And that's not even limit that to finances. As a parent, you are supposed to be in your child's life and to take care of him, and support those children during their growth and development for the first 18 to 21 years. And you still be there as a parent when they're grown, when they have children and families of their own to, they need your guidance and advice. You never stop being a parent until you die if you have children. So y'all complain about this child support. Y'all sorry. It's a sorry ass man to sit up and complain about child support, in my opinion, because no amount of money should be enough. You should spare no expense when it comes to taking care of your kids. And if a court has to force you to constantly take care of your child, and a lot of times these court-ordered child support payments, they usually be about $200 and $300. 9 times out of 10, the ones that's complaining about the child support aren't even paying enough to maintain and support a child on a monthly basis. They usually have to pay maybe a couple of $100. Some of them even pay. I've known people to even pay $60 a month, men to pay $60 a month in child support, and got there to complain about that. Because you know what it does? It forces them to be responsible. It forces, in some way, I don't care how minimal it is, it forces them to be responsible and to take care of the children that they brought into this world. It's not the woman's fault. It's your fault because you produced that child. And if you made the mistake and chose the wrong woman, don't blame that woman. Don't blame society. Don't blame anybody but yourself. That was your poor choice. I had a child by a person that I regret and hate, and because that person was not responsible. He did not do anything, and I did not love that person, and I was young, and I made that mistake. That is, I have to live with that for the rest of my life, and my child that I brought into the world has to live with that for the rest of his life, even though he's a grown man now. That person wasn't there, and so that was a bad childhood, teenage decision that I made that permanently changed the course of my life. And that's why I can tell young people to take your time and just don't make the mistake that I made, because you will live to regret it. Because 9 times out of 10, it's if you have a child that young, it's usually with someone that you don't love and you won't be with for the rest of your life. So, but back to the men and the whole bitching and complaining, the bitter men. When you sit up and complain about women and you complain about child support, that's a clear indication that you are a bitter, broken man who probably did not take care of your children or were in your children's lives. And you ran away or mistreated a lot of good women. And so when you get older, in your middle age, you live with a bunch of regrets. And when you evaluate your life, you see that you have not really accomplished anything in one aspect of your life. Because you can have men who may be good, have accomplished a lot, financially and, academically, educationally, and whatever. but they're lacking in their personal lives and in their spiritual lives and in their relationship with God. So it's not even just limited to economics. It's all aspects of their lives. When they get a certain age and they start reevaluating their lives and the choices that they've made, and they, realize that they're not halfway where they're supposed to be, or they're at a place that they don't want to be and where they feel they should be, then they start blaming other people. Oh, well, if I hadn't been with that woman, and if I hadn't paid all that child support, and if I hadn't did this and I had to did that, and you start blaming other people for your F-ups. And as a black woman, I think that black women need to stop feeding into that. Stop internalizing that, because hurt people hurt people. And so, and I'm going to even go so far as to say this. When you get with a man like that, if you have the unfortunate experience of getting with a man like that, who's so bitter about his life and the choices that he made, and he's got child support to pay, and he doesn't have anything, and he doesn't own anything, and he doesn't have any education, and he's possibly got a criminal record, and he's got all these strings of women and baby mamas and bad broken relationships in his past, broken family, didn't have proper guidance or father, a father figure in his life, or a positive male African American role model, and society has constantly beat him down. You are the first punching bag, in a broken, beaten down black man's life is a black woman and a black child. So, but black women, I'm going to say this: it's not your job to fix them. It's not your job to fix a broken man. You're not his mother. You can have moral support and emotional and spiritual support for that man and try to help him to work through his issues and his problems. But overall, it's not your responsibility. And you got so many men that are so dysfunctional and so outside of God's order that they will expect a woman, they will get with a woman. It's vice versa that in this world. It's so out of order now. Most black men that ain't got nothing, ain't did nothing for their kids, and then made all these mistakes in life and have accomplished nothing. Usually they try to find a woman who has some type of stability in her life, financial stability, spiritual stability, emotional, maturity and stability in her life. Maybe who owns her own home or has her own job and makes her own money and own car and probably don't have any kids, or either her kids are grown, or either the women that do. I've seen some old low down black men that will move in with women with kids just because she get food stamps and can feed him. And a lot of low self-esteem black women that do that, take men in. You got 3 and 4 kids by 3 and 4 different men who ain't there to support them. And then you get some old raggedy man and then you start feeding him with the kids' food stamps. Ooh, y'all know how many times I've seen that happen. Ooh. Because she feel like her options are limited. So she got to move a man in amongst her kids that she got to take care of and support like another grown child, man-child. And that's because a black woman, everybody's self-esteem is so damaged as a result of this systemic racism and our own internal issues, okay? I can honestly say that I have never, ever financially supported a man and never will. And I have been blessed and fortunate enough that I have a home. And I was able to get my only son a home that he owns outright, free and clear, because I felt like that was the least I could do, because he didn't have a father to help take care of him. He had a grandfather who helped me with him, and my mother, who helped me with him. My daddy worked hard. My daddy worked very hard. And so that's another reason why growing up, I was raised by a man. I was exposed to a hard-working man in my father. And in my grandfather as a child, he died when I was about 11. My grandfather, my mother's father, and my father's father were very hardworking men. They were sharecroppers. And so they never, ever, I never saw a man, some of the closest men in my life, depend on a woman to take care of them. They always took care of their responsibility. My grandfather on my mother's side had, I think, 10 children with my grandmother. And he lost my grandmother in his late 50s. I think my grandmother was 58 when she died. My maternal grandmother, my mother's mother, was 58 when she died. And my grandfather was probably a couple of years older than her, a year or two older than her. And he had to take on the responsibility of, the mother and the father with all of his children and his grandchildren, and he did. And never once did I see him depend on, and he even got married later on. I don't know how, my granddaddy was probably about in his 60s when he got married, remarried again. And he still maintained a relationship with all of his children and all of his grandchildren. And as a matter of fact, my grandfather was the first person to introduce me to Jesus Christ at such a very young age. When I was probably 9 or 10 years old, he told me about Jesus Christ because he saw how damaged I was as a result of my parents' dysfunctional relationship. When I was growing up, I was, a child, and I lived in a broken home with 2 broken people with a broken marriage. And it was 9 of us, and I was the second oldest of 9. And my grandfather saw how that was affecting me. And he told me, you better, he said, baby, just ask Jesus, just talk to Jesus about it. And I didn't believe him. I'm like, yeah, right, I'm gonna talk to Jesus about it. But I did. And when I did, what he said was true. I mean, that was my earliest recollection of when I knew, or when I started to pursue a relationship with Jesus Christ. He was the first person to introduce me to him. And then there was these little books that my mom would buy us, little Bible books and prayer books that she would buy us. And I remember the little pink book that talked about Jesus and praying and praying for blessings. And that book told me, I was probably 9 or 10, and I read that book after my granddaddy told me about Jesus. He told me, I went and I read the book that my mom had bought us. We were over his house. We were over my granddaddy's house. Let me back up. We were over my granddaddy's house because my mom and dad had got into a fight, and they separated, and she took us to live with my granddaddy and his wife, my step-grandmother, Miss Jessie. And he told me about Jesus, and I went and picked up this pink prayer book. And that's when I started reading about it. And I prayed and I talked to Jesus, and I spoke to him and I asked him, to help me and, to tell me more about himself. And that book, I remember it said that when you pray for blessings, it said don't just pray for blessings. It said don't just pray for blessings for yourself, but pray for blessings for other people. And so I've been doing that ever since then. Even when I was off in my own little world and as, the prodigal daughter or whatever, and out there pursuing all the things of this world and stuff and lost, I still did that. I still prayed for blessings for myself. I prayed for blessings for other people. And I guess that's what started my whole intercessory prayer ministry, just because based off of that book, and then based off of my early life as a child, and that book telling me to be unselfish when I pray for blessings. I pray for blessings. I used to ask the Lord, and I still do, ask God to bless other people, because that's just in me. That's the type of person I am. But anyway, back to what I was saying. I got off on a tangent. When it comes to Jesus, I get off on a tangent, and I could be here all night. But black women, it is not your job to fix a black man. You can help him, you can support him, and be there for him during his difficult times, and help him work through his problems, and help, and pray for him, and be a spiritual rock for him. But you are not a grown man's mother. Do not take care of grown-ass men. Never take care of a grown man. because that is outside of God's order. You are not supposed to be the sole breadwinner in your household. You are not supposed to move a man into your house that you provided for yourself or your children, and you take in some worthless man who's looking for a mother or looking for a woman to support and take care of him, because he has messed up his whole life and has destroyed every bridge that he has crossed and ruined every relationship in his life, including relationships with his kids. You are not Miss Cleanup Woman. And this is why when I see these black men, that when you get a certain age and you don't really have a relationship with your children, you really don't have a good, sound, solid, intimate relationship with a woman, or you don't have a good, happy marriage, or you're alone and you're looking for companionship on Facebook or with women half your age that's young enough to be your children. After a while, after your life is falling apart, you then try to run back to the black woman, and you want her to be cleanup woman, to pick up the pieces of your life that you shattered through your bad decision making and your lack of spirituality and your lack of Jesus Christ in your heart, mind, and spirit. I'm the type of person, I'm not going to clean up no black man. And when I hear a black man, or when I see a black man posting, complaining about black women, that's an instant turn off for me. And I've been approached by men old enough to be my father and my grandfather. Instant repulsion and discussion, because that's disgusting to me. I think the oldest man that I dated was probably about 15 years older than me. And I knew that relationship was not a permanent relationship that I wanted. I knew off the bat I didn't want to be with a man that old, because the man that I'm going to be with, we are going to, if I am going to be with one, I'm not hell-bent on being with a man, but if I was going to be with a man, I knew that he would be within 5 years of my age range, and no more than 10 years older than me, because like now I'm 45 years old. There's nothing a man that's 35, there's nothing a man that's 25, there's nothing a man that's 65 can do for me. I'm sorry, that's just me. 65, you're in my parents' age range. 60, you're way older than me. I'm 45. You're 15 years older than me. You can teach me a lot of things, and there's a lot of wisdom in some people that age, but I just have my own preferences, and I think that's a little bit too old for me. I don't want a divorced man, a man that's been married before, because I think about what Jesus told the woman at the well when she came, and he gave him a drink. He told her, he asked her, he said, "Where's your husband?" She said, "My husband," I think she said, "My husband's at home." And he said, he told her, he said, "You've had 5 husbands." And he said, "The one that you're with now is not your husband." And so I'm thinking that what that meant was, because you've been married before and now you've remarried again, that's not your husband, because your previous husband still lives. Because the Bible says God hates divorce. And when Jesus came along, after the law of Moses and the Abrahamic and Mosaic laws, they granted divorce for anything. You can put under Mosaic law, you can get divorced just because you don't like each other. And, you can give a woman a bill of divorcement. But when Jesus came along, he changed all of that. And he said, God hates divorce. And he said, one man, one woman. And so you get a divorced person. And what Jesus say? A man divorces his wife, causes her to commit adultery. Or, when people get divorced, they committed adultery, because as long as that first spouse still lives, I believe that whoever you get with after that, and you marry after that, you're pretty much committing adultery with them, because that's not your husband or that's not your wife as long as that first spouse still lives. And that's why I don't want a divorced person. And besides that, I believe that there's two sides to everything, and unless I know for sure that the man who is divorced did not cause the divorce, and maybe the wife had committed adultery on him, and that's the only reason why you should get a divorce, then if I find out and have proof and know for sure that the wife committed adultery on the man and broke the marriage, then that's the only way that I would ever date a divorced man. And I wouldn't just take his word for that. I would have to also know that he's consistently been in his kid's life and that he's consistently supported his children. That's the only way that I would date a divorced man at this age. Wisdom teaches you don't just get with anybody. You got to test the spirits, examine that person's character and integrity and morals and things like that. You got to know what their relationship is with God, and if they accept Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. Because everybody makes mistakes, but at the same time, there are some things that you as an adult, you have to make the decision that these are my standards, and I'm not willing to compromise those standards for anybody, or for the sake of companionship and to not be alone, because society told me that I shouldn't be alone at my age. I don't conform to the patterns of this world, and that's the reason why I don't sweat. I mean, it would be nice to be married and happily married or whatever, but I'm just realistically aware of the odds of a marriage surviving in this day and age. Unless these are two people who are totally devoted to Jesus Christ, who are totally sold out to God, heart, mind, body, spirit, behavior, everything, then that marriage is not going to last. And they also have to have worked through their internal issues. And you can only do that through Christ Jesus. There's no other way. I'm not going to take care of a man. You're not going to move into anything that I've bought and I've built, with my own hands. It ain't much, but it's, it's ours. We own it. And you're not going to come in here and take advantage and live free and off of something that I worked for, because I know that's out of God's natural order. And no man worth his salt should ever feel comfortable being supported by a woman. I don't care if it's your mother, if it's your wife, if it's your sister, your grandmother, your aunt. No grown man worth his salt should ever sit back and feel that it's okay to watch a woman struggle to maintain a household that he himself is living in. No man who's worth his salt should feel that the court should order him to pay child support and take care of his responsibility, the responsibility being the children that he brought into the world. I don't care if you got 15 baby mamas. That's because you made those bad decisions and you brought those children in the world by 15 different women that you weren't married to. So the consequences of your sin is child support. And a lot of times, you got multiple baby mamas and multiple children. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be consistently in all of those kids' lives. Those kids are going to grow up without you. Or it's going to be you're going to have an inadequate presence in a child's life. And that's so unacceptable. So unacceptable. But women, y'all need to be more dignified. And when I say dignified, I don't mean puffed up with pride. You need to be more dignified. And y'all know y'all read the little Oprah books and all the Yala and Van Zants and all the New Age books and stuff and spirituality and all that crap. Tell me, know your worth and all that stuff. No, you just have to have more dignity. Be more dignified about yourself. And the way you do that is by seeing yourself through the eyes of God. Seeing yourself through Jesus, through Jesus Christ's eyes. And if you do that, then you will realize that you have to set standards for yourself as women. I see so many damaged, broken black women, that sit up and just gripe and complain. All men are dogs and all men are this and that. And my baby daddy ain't this and this and that. Okay, that's the choice you made. You chose those low lives. That's the choice. Okay, live with it. Get over it. Work through your own internal issues so that you won't make that bad choice again. Because I see so many women with 2 and 3 and 4 different, baby daddies, kids by multiple men. Ain't none of the men in the kids' lives taking care of them. And then you want to go and try to find some good boy or some good man with no kids, or maybe he takes care of the kids that he brought into the world, and you want him to play Captain Save a bastard and Captain Save a scorned whole woman to sit up and save you and take care of you. Okay, he's got the weight of his own responsibility on his shoulders, and now you want to add the weight of yours and some other man's responsibility. You want him to come in and take care of you and your kids that you've had by other. No, that's not fair. And if I was a man like that, I wouldn't want no woman with that type of baggage, period. Unless, unless he feels that, he has the ability to do it and he wants to do it, then okay, that's his decision. But for the most part, you don't put that responsibility on another man. It's not his job. That's not his responsibility to take care of you and your kids. And don't move a man in your house. Like I said, just your low self-esteem women that feel like you ain't got no options. Stop moving these men in your house amongst your kids, around your kids, and you don't hardly even know them. Just because you want to have sex and be with some man and have live-in penis in your house. So you'll pay penis that you're paying for. Penis that you raising like it's a child. You're so lonely-hearted and so dysfunctional that you'll sit up and you'll take care of a man. Man could be done 12 years in prison, 15 years in prison. He get out and he come and move in your house. You don't know if he'd been in homosexual relationships for all those time he's been in there. You don't know if he got diseases. You don't know what type of person he was before he went into prison. You don't know what he done to get there. He gets out. All you know is, you see muscles and you lonely and you want a man. And next thing you know, he right in your house and you taking care of him. Or either you done walked him through a jail sentence. And as soon as he get out, he knows he got a place to stay because he can move with your dumb, desperate self. Because you don't have no dignity. You don't have no dignity. And like I said, you ain't got to be prideful, puffed up with pride to have dignity. Don't accept just any old thing. And then you have these more successful men financially. When they up and when they got money and they got their health and their life is together, the last thing they want is a black woman. The only time they respect and want a black woman is when he down on his ass and that black woman is supporting him and taking care of him and helping him build himself up. Soon as he get to a level that that he can stand on his own and he's got money and he's got all this stuff, he give a black woman his butt to kiss. And he gonna run and share with other women. He gonna share with Asians and Italians and Mexicans and Hispanics and mulattoes and white women and all of this stuff. And I'm not prejudiced. I'm just telling y'all like it is. These broken, damaged, slave mentality black men, soon as they get up, as soon as they get money and wealth and accumulate things, they run away from you, a black woman, and they go share it with other people. So then what happens is, after those other people have ruined their lives, have broken their pockets and their spirits, then they want to run back to you so you can play cleanup woman. Or if they get sick or something, or they get old or they lose their money or something very devastating occur in their life, then they want to come back to you because they want you to now be the rock, the spiritual rock, the emotional rock, the financial rock, the psychological rock as a black woman. Stop doing that. You ain't a clean-up woman. You can forgive people and like the lady, who's that, Bernadine on Waiting to Exhale. I know it's a fictional story, but that happens a lot. She helped this man build up this company. He became rich, became a millionaire, only for him to leave her for his young white secretary and tried to not give her anything. You know, she had 2 kids by this man and everything, and he tried to leave, just leave with the white woman with all the money and everything and not give her anything. That happens a lot in life. So when they fall on their ass and then they want to come back to you after everybody else and took everything from them and broken them in every way, then they want to come back to you as a black woman so you can pick up the pieces of their life. No, don't do that. No, be more dignified to not be somebody's cleanup woman. I mean, I'm a kind-hearted person. I'm a generous, kind-hearted person. I believe in, you know, manifesting the fruits of the Spirit in your life. But don't let people take advantage of you. You're not a mule, black woman. You're not a mule for the world to ride on. Stop being a mule. Because a mule is a jackass. And as long as you play the jackass, you will be treated as a jackass. And that's just I'm giving you some hard truth. I'm giving black men and black women some hard truth. We are a damaged people because of some of our experiences over in this white supremacist society in America. We are very damaged, and a lot of us don't even realize it. You know, once you can identify the issues, then that's the only way that you can work to resolve them. And the only way that you will even begin to resolve them or ever overcome your issues is through Jesus Christ. There's no other way. So, just some this is just some wisdom. This is some wisdom this is the type of wisdom that hurts. That's the sharpening. That's the sharpening in me. That's the sharpener in me. I got to sharpen you. I'm sharpening you. So, you know, they don't feel good, but I'm gonna tell you, you know, I'm gonna call it out. I'm gonna point it out. Every demon and every devil that wanna, you know, infiltrate itself in our people, I'm gonna call it out. I'm gonna stomp on his head, you know, with the word, and I'm gonna tell him, you know, our people are destroyed by lack of knowledge, and you need to get that knowledge and get that wisdom. And once you do, you will realize, or you will become more dignified and know your true value as a person in Christ, as a child of God. You'll learn your true value and learn what is not acceptable and what is not God's will for your life, and to fall more in line with God's order, God's perfect order in your life. So be blessed, people. Peace.